And we're live. Welcome back, everyone, to the HVAC 2.0 show. We got T and Ken with us today, and I guess we're going to be talking about building out table templates or kind of presented options for free quotes.
And you also want to talk about your thoughts on the language?
Um, yes, we can do that as well. What part do we want to start with?
Um, I'm thinking probably how you were seeing this. Where was that in Slack somewhere? Free quote.
Uh, Talking about the verbiage for
Yes.
the process. Yeah, it was in Slack. um, I guess talking about it, I guess this has always kind of been a difficulty of what we've kind of had in terms of having terms to kind of describe what the whole process is, especially for doing free quotes, because that's kind of the common term within the HVAC industry is, when it comes time to replace, you go give a free quote, in which we started building a process in order to do that. But the only issue with the term that we've kind of had has been that
We're
we have
not
a
really doing a free quote.
yeah. Well, we are doing a free quote. It's just a free quote is one step of many steps within a process that we've been working on and we've created. Uh, so the idea has kind of been like, what can we call this to really better encompass what it is? And so far, what I've been thinking of and come up with is starting it out, calling it the initial comfort plan.
What do you think of that, Ken? Initial comfort plan.
If it sounds too highfalutin, customers
What
may wonder about it. Free quote process they understand. We simply have to let them know what the limitations are.
Yeah,
Okay. So we should probably chew on it for a while. I'll tell you some of the reasons I like it. I like it because the industry has, maybe it's always been this way, but it seems like it's shifted pretty heavily into calling the HVAC salesperson a comfort consultant. And so this would fall nicely into that conversation. We're going to have a comfort consultant come out and help you develop your initial comfort plan.
Yeah, but
And
wait,
then it flows nicely into a if the initial comfort plan isn't thorough enough for you, you can get a comfort consult. And if the house is a real basket case and you want to have a much better understanding of what's going on and what your options are, we also have the comprehensive planning process.
yeah,
So it feels like it all ties together. I mean, there are parts I like about the free quote. But is that language that the industry uses?
You talking about free quote, or are you talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah. We're going to
Yeah,
send a comfort consultant out to do a free quote.
yeah. Well, I think typically what will happen is they'll be like, yeah, they'll give the premise of like, we're going to send out a consultant, and they're going to help consult with you as to what to get, and we'll give you a free quote in doing it. Which
Okay.
really it's just it's word salad to say we'll send a salesman to come try to sell you
And
something.
Right.
And so to me, the problem I've always had with it is if you're getting a consultant, you should be getting consulting. And
Right.
for one, if they're doing it for free, then it's probably not good. And two, if they're doing no testing, they're not consulting. They're just
Right.
selling. That's it.
Particularly if they're not offering or suggesting
Yes.
testing.
Yes. And so I think to begin with, part of like some of this verbiage of saying, okay, we'll put together an initial comfort plan for you. And part of that is we're determining what quotes you would like to get. And those quotes are free. It's
It
just
could
part of the
even
process.
it could even just be called a comfort plan.
Yeah. I
I
mean, I
mean,
guess it's kind of the same way of, how the comfort consult was, there were some times where it was called the initial comfort consult because it was initial to the comprehensive planning process, but now that's not the initial aspect
Right.
now. So
Right.
that's kind of where that come from. So yeah, just comfort plan. It could be initial comfort plan is the whole phrase, similar to home comfort consult is the whole phrase, but then we typically will call it comfort consult or comfort plan
Okay.
because that's really what our process for the free quote is you're developing a plan. You're developing, what course of action do we look at taking? What route should we go? Should we not go? What's our plan for this? Are we going to go into consulting and really nailing this down? Or are we just going to, you know, use likely load range to make good equipment decisions, buy better equipment, and hedge our bets
Make
that,
you aware that you may have some duct
yeah,
issues.
yeah. So you're
Um,
you're really just creating a plan for that. And I think calling it a free quote to where it is more like it's understood more. But the problem with that is when you say, "Hey, we'll come give you a free quote," they've got everyone has a preconceived notion as to what that is. That is,
yeah.
someone
Yeah.
comes out, they look at some stuff a little bit, and 5 minutes later, they're like, "Here's you some prices,"
Right.
or "I'll get back with you and give you a price." Like that's what they're expecting, and so being
Free
able to,
quote is a free quote is really what you would give if they give you a specification.
yeah, yeah, that is what it would be.
So,
And so developing that initial comfort plan gives them the ability to give you that specification that you're going to quote to. So it's do you have
right.
a specification? Oh, no?
Plus, you're gonna
Okay, well, we can
you're
do a
gonna
comfort plan.
ask you're gonna ask for the privilege of last to bid,
Yeah,
because that is it's turning out to be a very crucial part of the process is the yes, no, no, maybes.
yeah,
Um, People are getting smoked by not doing yes, no, no, maybes. And if they get smoked because somebody doesn't give them the privilege of last to bid, if they set the privilege of last to bid up properly, then that person isn't living up to the contract, because there's going to be kind of a verbal contract of reciprocity. I'm going to help you build this comfort plan, and with it, you should be able to go get bids. And then I'm going to provide this next service, which is going to help you realize if the bids are apples to apples, and I'll get a chance to bid on what your ultimate comfort plan is. So it might be comfort plan and ultimate comfort plan would be all part of the free quote step.
yeah.
You thinking that
It,
through, Ken?
I'm almost in favor of the term equipment consultant because for the most part, that's what contractors offer. They will show the typical good, better, best, and it's all based on the features of the equipment.
Oh,
Unfortunately, the customer is accustomed to comfort consultant as fixing their problems. But if they haven't found out what the problems are, they don't know if the new equipment will fix it.
So it's an equipment consult.
That's effectively what it proves to be.
Okay, so let's.
It's a matter of further customer education.
Well, let's think that through for the next 2 weeks and sort of chew on these, because I like both of those. I like both of those better than free quote. Or I think I like both of those because they offer forks, right? Do you want a free quote branch or do you want an equipment consult branch?
Will the customer know the difference?
No, but they could be asked if they have a specification. Well, then what you don't need a free quote, you need an equipment consult. Because you don't have a specification to bid to yet.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
Tanner, let's jump over into the tables. What do you think?
Okay. Let me share my screen. So this, I'll just use these presets. We'll go heat pump that I've got here. I can remove that because I don't need that.
So for those watching, these are the
Okay.
tables and they've been fixed. So they work now. And this has been a real problem having these not work.
Yes.
Because you need these to work at the visit so that you can help the homeowner understand which equipment provides which smiley faces. This is right after the smiley faces, the 6 functions video. This is going to help them firm up how the 6 functions video applies to equipment decision. And one of the things that we've been thinking about is instead of pick your installation and pick your equipment, we're going to allow you to edit those fields, pick your install, pick your equipment. And the top one would be probably 6 functions, and it'll have both install and equipment items in the first one. And it'll show them single stage, no smiley faces, multi-stage, some smiley faces, and then inverter driven equipment, all the smiley faces. And in my mind, the second one is going to show their current equipment and the smiley faces associated with their current equipment. Then the middle one would probably be the equipment they chose or their initial ideal specification. If you have 4 rows, the third, you can have as many or columns. If you have 4 columns, the third column would probably be like one step up from what they've decided is their ideal specification, so that they can sort of think back and forth between the two. And then the last one would probably be straight heat pump with reheat, dehumidification. So, and what this allows to occur is when the homeowner later calls back and they bought single stage, for example, and they're having mixing or load matching problems with some of their rooms, you can go back and review this with them and say, well, this is what you chose, and these are what we offered, and this is what you chose, and this is what you could have chose. And the problems that you're having right now are 6 function problems, and you chose none of the 6 functions. So are you saying at this point that you'd like to try and address some of the 6 functions? Because we could probably try and figure out how to solve whatever problems are bothering you. But this is what you chose. So that it's clear that this isn't you giving them a house that has all smiley faces when they bought none.
Or it's time to offer testing.
Right. We did offer testing. You chose not to, so we didn't really know how the ductwork was performing. We didn't know anything about how the house performs. So I think what we have to do is we have to add rows and then insert the equipment choices in the install choices table for now. Is that kind of what's missing?
Yeah. I mean, I think first thing, if we make just the names of the tables editable, so then we can play around with it, because I could kind of see pros and cons no matter which way we do it.
Okay.
As in, having just the 6 functions up here and being able to just basically have a everything all in one table. The good thing is that you're simplifying things in terms of you can just have one table encompass everything, and then like you said, the second table being like maybe what they currently have, what their ideal specification they gave was, and then one step above that or the best option offered. Um, the only negative side is like using it as it is right now. You're able to kind of use the install choice, especially this nearly perfect option, as kind of being that high-end price anchor, where it's like you want the best of the best. Okay, it's nearly perfect with the best option.
Okay.
And so if they say no to those, because it's like, okay, green speed with electric reheat, sure, like we are going to do great dehumidification, but there are times where it's maybe setback or schedule has it in heat mode and the humidity's high outside, so then you have higher humidity. And if they're, so there's a scenario where someone can be like, well, why is it maintaining humidity? Which is why you would need a ventilating dehumidifier if you're trying to keep it just nailed down that harshly.
Right. Even on
Yeah,
those
yeah,
shoulder seasons when you're actually getting a little bit into heat.
yeah. Where it's like in reality, it's really not that big of a problem, but depending on what their
Could be a
expectations
comfort
are,
issue.
yeah, it could be something where they're, that could be a problem. And if you don't offer it and they have that problem, well, now you're in trouble because you didn't offer it. So then it puts in a spot where if you have everything in one table, so then this very top option, are we just going to throw everything in it? Are we going to throw a dehumidifier, a Haven, all this other stuff that's going to really run that price up? So now instead of being around 22, 24K, now we're 32K for that, something that nobody's really going to get it. So then you're kind of pushing that green speed option away from everybody. But then it's like, okay, well, then maybe you have perfect HVAC on the far side, which is everything. And then one notch below that is, just this option with, say, like, the better option with fresh air and big airdrop return. But then it's like now we're getting into where we can run into having 5, 6, options, and it starts to get a little bit it starts to get a little bit much. Uh, so that's kind of the negative of it, where I'm kind of like, I think it would take some kind of working out. Granted, if we put together just pre-made packages, but then have add-ons on top of that, possibly. But then we're getting into, that I don't know if that simplifies or if that complicates more at that point.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure about
Do,
that either.
do you want to go back to the input?
Yeah, I can.
So I think that under filtration, the smiley face for you drag the smiley face for filtration up. You were on it. Yeah, right there, the hamburger on the side. I think if you
Yeah.
drag
Where
that
to?
up under filter.
Oh,
Okay. And then the fresh air smiley face, drag up under fresh air. Oh, you know what? That might need to be under air quality.
I'm seeing some duplication. Filter, filtration, fresh air twice.
yeah. The filtration, that's the smiley face row. The filter,
Gotcha.
that's the name of it. And fresh air is the same way. It's like what kind of fresh air and smiley face. Um,
Thank you.
so so I guess because I guess the real question kind of just comes down to like basically we're going to take these options and we're going to add into our equipment. Uh,
Yeah, we're going to
part.
move those up
Yeah. So
to the
then,
to the top table.
yeah. Uh, let's see. Well,
Can you
it,
run it so we can see how it looks?
yeah.
Okay. I kind of like that better. So I think if I see 6 smiley faces on this top one, um,
Yeah. Well, I think we could just like basically take all these and move them into this table. It just, it really just kind of comes down to then what are we including uh, with things at that point? If we're on the basic option, um, are we just going to have just big airdrop added onto this? Uh, do we add fresh air or not? How do we then offer the fresh air when we have these options? Do we just go, here are some pre-built options and here are add-ons on the side, and you can add these to any one of these that you like? Uh, that's where it gets a little
so
tricky.
music traditions, yes, this is the HVAC 2.0 app.
Yes.
Um, and what this is designed to do is create a repeatable process for your sales consultations. And we're trying to make it so that it's followable by even a brand new salesperson. Even a brand new salesperson could very quickly go out, walk the homeowner through the sales process within the application. And there's some other things like likely load range, um, offering to take static pressure, which can be done a number of different ways. You can use Measure Quick because then that's third person verified that the people don't have enough ductwork for their current equipment. Um, helps people be comfortable choosing smaller equipment, so that they get equipment that matches the ductwork, particularly if they're not interested in changing out ductwork, which most change outs homeowners aren't changing ductwork, at least on our side of the Mississippi. We want to make sure that they're aware of opportunities for better dehumidification control because, again, east of the and green grass climates, dehumidification and keeping relative humidity below 50% in homes is really important for avoiding mold. And Jason had a comment. As long as you're making them known and that they're available, main concern is getting good equipment rather than a bunch of add-ons, which would be up to the consultant to lead them towards. Well, so in this case, we really prefer that it be brought to their attention that we explain to them how the 6 functions connect to the equipment. Because after the 6 functions video, some people are like, oh, I just want all 6 of those. Whereas people that have single stage equipment may also be like, I don't need any of that. And so you want to have a little bit of a conversation about the 6 functions after the 6 functions video during the equipment specification build. Big airdrop would be good at install because it would deal with how the equipment is installed, where the fresh air system with Haven, and yeah, so exactly those things are. You want to have a conversation with them about that. It'll help them figuring out their budget. It'll help them figuring out, okay, well, I want to be ready for these other improvements, which impacts the installation design, as opposed to, oh, I'm going to have to get a whole new drop if I want to get a humidifier or a ventilating dehumidifier or fresh air.
Perhaps an asterisk or some sort of a mark with some of these options. The Haven, for instance.
Hey, Joe.
Or a dehumidifier is something which could be installed later. It's not necessary that it be specified and installed initially. If their comfort is adequate, that's fine.
Right.
If they decide, we're not getting enough dehumidification, I really wish I hadn't decided against that at the beginning because now it can't even be added on. That's not the
Right.
way.
Right. Right.
Something which, such as humidifier, something that doesn't involve a whole lot of redesign.
Now, your mic is terrible. You have your other mic available?
I've got it plugged in. I'm going to check it out. I'll shut mine off for now. See what I can do with the settings.
Yeah, it's just, I think, in the sound settings. Did you also have your teeth worked on? Okay, so it's a combination of the mic and your mouth is numb. So we have Joe here, and Joe works with MeasureQuick. And one of the things that we see is tremendous value at the free quote process is offering MeasureQuick because, and I briefly touched on it, it would be sort of an upgraded offer to taking static pressure because it'll help the homeowner understand capacity. And then you could also, with MeasureQuick, you can tell them something like, well, if you've been comfortable with this 4-ton that's only been delivering 2.5 ton because you only got 2.5 ton of ductwork, and as you can see from this report, here's the capacity you've been getting. Unfortunately, the new equipment is not going to work on the existing ductwork. You can't buy 4 ton of equipment that'll deliver 2.5 ton in single stage because it doesn't like not being attached to sufficient ductwork. New equipment doesn't like being attached to sufficient ductwork. So if your duct constraint is 2.5 ton, it's a really bad idea with this new equipment to put something bigger than 2.5 ton. The older equipment, less efficient but more robust, you could put a 4 ton on 2.5 ton of duct and get away with it. Now, granted, you got 12 years out of your old equipment. You would have probably got 20 if you had either properly sized it or to the ductwork you had, or properly sized the ductwork to the equipment. But one of the things that we found is if you oversize the equipment to the house, you're going to have trouble getting your 6 functions. And that's, so all of these are little narratives that you're helping the homeowner understand, tying the 6 functions into the specification that they're building. Is that a good way to explain it, Joe?
Oh, we have some echoing going on.
Oh, that's Ken playing with his various microphones. Oh, no, it's not.
Yeah, it is. I muted Ken just to test.
Oh,
I think
okay.
you may have some backfeeding going on there, Ken.
Yeah.
Well, I
Technical
can't hear Ken at
problem.
all right now. You're muted, Ken.
He's muted.
I hear you.
Boomer technical problems.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off there when we were having the echoing, but yeah, I think one thing I would like to kind of add to that is that that's also assuming that the current equipment is in the condition to be able to test those things. I would probably
Right.
say if someone's using Measure Quick, this is how I personally use it, is ideally it's someone that you've serviced it before, so you have some testing history to be able to
Right.
start. Like the way that I look at it is rather than wait until it's dead in the water before you start throwing everything on the homeowner all at once and be like, here's all this information, I'll make a decision. Anytime you can slow drip this, the better. So at maintenance calls or whatever, that's when you should be, thoroughly testing everything, finding, okay, this 4-ton unit does have 2.5 tons of ductwork. The static pressure is 0.9, 1 inch, and it's only delivering a fraction of the airflow that it should be, which is made when the system was installed, it wasn't charged properly. Therefore, it's only doing part capacity. And you can let them know ahead of time, so that way whenever it does come time to replace it, they already know all these looming issues, so that way when it does come time to present things, you're cutting down on the amount of information that you're throwing at them. And so I think, being able to, if you can do that, that's best. But let's assume, I guess for sake, I just wanted to throw that in there just because that's how I prefer to do it. But everything's not a
Yeah.
perfect
And
world.
that,
So a lot of times it's like the lead that you got, this is the first time they've ever called you, and you're going out to a broken system and you're giving a quote for that. So then you're having to kind of do all that. And that's where I do think if you at least have blower operation, then offering
right,
static pressure,
right.
is
Static
very
pressure will be
crucial
there.
because you can get a good sense of what things look like.
Right.
You can
Well, plus I can't do this, but some of you guys have gotten to the point in your knowledge and experience that you can eyeball a duct.
yeah, so I don't feel super comfortable at doing that just because there's a lot of like even
If
when you check static pressure,
But the
you
fan's out. So
yeah,
if the fan's out,
well,
you
yeah,
gotta eyeball a duct or measure it.
yeah. I mean that
And
is
so
true.
that's what that's,
Yeah,
beggars can't be choosers.
yeah. And in those scenarios, I would probably lean towards it.
It looks
You
like
know,
you have 2.5 ton of duct here, sir.
yeah, yeah. It's like well, we don't really know because your system's currently broke. But based on what I've seen previous, here's what it's kind of looking like, and then you can kind of like lean into this likely load range of going, hey, uh, and if we're not doing a comfort consult, we're going to be making some form of assumptions to some
Right.
degree. So if we're going to make assumptions, just know here is our safe zone of assumptions and here are our risky zones. And if we go back with another 4-ton for this 2,000 square foot house, just know we are in the higher risk zone where if we start up this brand new system, we could be pegging out our static pressure. And if that's the case, we're going to be looking at new ductwork.
Right.
Do we want to just look at replacing all that ductwork now, or will we maybe want to look at sizing more into the less
Right.
risky
Geez, your
zone?
ductwork looks like it's in nice shape.
Yeah.
Have you been mostly comfortable with the house, or are there smiley faces that you didn't have that you'd like to for this next 15 to 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Shall we
just a
go back
visual.
and add a few rows?
Okay. What should we add and where?
I think we should add below air quality.
Talking about air quality monitor.
Yeah, below air quality monitoring,
Okay. Just
because I think
what kind of
that
row?
falls into fresh air, right? Well, so that's
Uh,
where
that's just the monitor. That's just air quality monitoring. It kind of
should
cuts
that
it
be at
out.
the very? Would that be put sort of at the bottom? Like if you really want to lean in, so that we know what's going on with the air here, we suggest you get a Haven or other air quality monitoring devices, so that we can see how the house is performing over time.
Um,
Would that be part of the fresh air discussion, or would that be sort of make sure it's offered so that you get your offer decline? I think it needs to be on there, but I
yeah.
don't know where.
Under your
Well,
grid you got there, under the first fresh air, basic, good, better. What's the better? It says fresh air. Is that intermittent?
so uh, this row is basically like telling you what the fresh air is. This worst, good, best, those are for smiley faces. So that word just kind of tells it what smiley face to show. So for here under good, there's no means of fresh air. When we get
Right.
to better,
But
we're adding a
you're
fresh air
getting better
intake.
filtration is what that one
But
is.
what I'm saying, the only I see is fresh air int. So I want to know what's the word? What is it? What does that say? Fresh air
Fresh air intake. It just cut it.
intake.
There's
Okay.
a full line there. It's just this is only populating a
No,
certain
I understand.
portion.
I just couldn't. I didn't. That's what I'm trying to find out. What did it say? Good. It could have
Yeah.
said intermittent. Okay.
Yeah, just fresh air intake. And then the last one's for ventilating dehumidifier. Um, maybe I should have kind of just combined these two just for us to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because
So
I think,
add rows, and that's what I'm trying to do. Is if we add some rows, then we can move some of the things from below up.
yeah,
So
because I think we're going to get pretty busy, and it's just going to be a mix and match, see what it looks like type thing.
right.
Because if we're going to put all of these as well, I mean, we got several.
Well, so the next one would be what? Load matching?
Um, probably so.
Is it possible to have blank lines? Could we have them all in? Perhaps the customer might want to see the equipment first. I'm throwing it out there, and then a couple of blank lines, and then we go down to these features, showing that it's sort of a subset.
Well, run it and see what the report looks like. Or go ahead and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
While Tanner's
Yeah.
doing that, Joe, any input since the last time?
No, I caught up with Tanner down in Florida. Just to so I'd try to catch when I could. So
Oh, and you were
what's your
available tonight. Thanks for coming.
yeah. The one you got a word there I understand works with the client, but it's a hypersensitive word to me. Fresh air. Anybody got a definition for fresh air?
Generally, we use a 6-inch scuttle.
No, that's the actual opening and hole you have that goes outside. But when people talk about fresh air, that could
just
be
outside air.
Okay.
Yeah, just bring in outside air to the return before the filter.
It goes by a lot of names: makeup air, dilution
air.
air.
Yeah. Well, dilution is a specific source of dilute for air for heating combustion equipment. So
most of the there's a lot of people are wanting fresh air. And some people are actually tracking carbon dioxide, and they're like, oh, well, at night our carbon dioxide is going very high in our bedroom. And this is where the better equipment comes in, because they can set the fan to continuous and set the speed. And then they get continuous mixing. And then if they add in fresh air, that really help. Most of the time that solves the CO2 problem in the bedroom. Or if they have odors, or if they have high occupancy, or a lot of it comes down to the use case of the occupant. And our questionnaire is getting that information, like how many people live here, square feet. So what originally happened is we were doing the equipment choices and then the installation choices. And when people were out at the sale, they were finding that homeowners were picking their equipment based on their budget. And then they go down into the installation choices, and they want a big airdrop, and they'd want a big filter, and they'd want fresh air. And they're like, oh, that's another $5,000 or $6,000. And we can't afford that now. So then you'd have to go back up to the top and go and redevelop the equipment specification so that it fit within their budget. So we changed the equipment specification to below the installation specification so that they wouldn't be redoing the equipment choices in the sales process. And that ended up saving the guys a lot of time. And now what we're doing is trying to put and Tanner's showing you sort of this is what the report's going to look like.
Yeah, which this is very messy and very convoluted right now. It needs some rearranging, because I guess kind of give Joe context. Previously, let me go back here. What we've had were just what we called install options. So it's basically everything that isn't the equipment itself. Of, okay, are we going to do a large airdrop with a large media filter? Is there going to be a fresh air intake? Is there going to be a ventilating dehumidifier? Yada yada. And then after that, then you chose the equipment, which would just be broken down in just the comparisons between each equipment line. And so here we're looking and toying with the idea of just merging the two, having it all in one table. And then the second table can be have one line will be, here's what you currently have. The next line will be, here is the ideal specification that we've come to during the visit. And then the third one will be either one step up from what they are choosing or the best option that they could choose. So it's just kind of brainstorming that and playing around with that idea, which has come to this table of now what we have. And I kind of shortened some things. I mean, it needs to, like,
what we're trying to do here is a little charrette on how to set this up, because, like, should you still do the install options and then the smiley faces for install options, and then the equipment options and the smiley faces for equipment options? Or should you do the install and equipment and then the smiley faces? Or do you do each option and then the smiley faces? So there are a bunch of different, by moving the rows around, you can do this. And this function hasn't been working. So the guys have mostly had to use the template that was already in there, because that when they went in to edit and change things around, it wasn't sticking. And I think you probably understand the frustration of building software. So we were sort of in a place where we were, you know,
Can I ask a quick question?
having software bugs that were
So
problematic.
once you guys have established their pain, their challenges, why you're sitting there with them, why is basic and good even on the table? Just asking.
Because the equipment exists and people may have that. I think it was Nate who said that he was talking to a customer and the guy said, well, I'm insulted that you would even offer me this. And Nate's answer was, that's what you've got in your house already.
That's what you have now.
So single stage, things of that sort.
So I'm asking, why are you guys still putting them back on the table?
Well, because you're helping them build their specification, and they might want it, or they might be budget constrained. This is sort of following the homeowner. It's walking them down the primrose path at a speed that the homeowner can absorb it, as opposed to, sort of stuffing it down their throat.
Yeah, I got some contractor friends who are like, they won't even do your two basic models. They're like, we just don't do that. So if that's what you want, there's a laundry list of people. In fact, I can give you names right now. You should go call, but we don't do that. So
we feel that's unethical.
That's your choice to feel that way, but I actually, be blunt, I feel unethical to even offer them something that's below grade of what would really be considered a good system.
If somebody's going to buy below grade equipment, shouldn't they buy it from the best contractor?
No, I wouldn't bother with it personally. I would just be like, you know what, I think there's a mismatch as to what we really do. We really try to make sure that you have the best option. So if that's what
what you're doing is telling them what you think the best option is for them.
Well, they always have the options to go into somebody else and get a quote. At that point, you're dealing with, price arguments and basic little titter-tatter stuff.
All of that is built into this process.
Yeah.
This process basically, instead of telling people, no, I'm not going to do business with you, this process is about, yes, we will try to get you the best solution for your situation and your house and your budget.
I understand. Yeah, I'm just being your devil's advocate, because that's
I get it. But this is a lot of this is, and unfortunately, it's all of sort of the thought process.
Yeah, I just kind of feel with that sort of thing is, for one, me personally, I don't like people telling me what to do. Therefore, I don't like to tell people what to do. Now, obviously, there's going to be things of like, if you're trying to look for a particular outcome, there's only so many ways you can do that. And if you try to choose a method that's not going to deliver what you're looking for, obviously that's not very smart. But I'm not there to tell anyone what to do in that regard. And I think at a minimum, if they are going to choose single stage equipment, I can at least do them the service by installing it really well. Now, because I know if they go to someone down the road, they're probably going to get a shoddy install. They're not going to, pull a vacuum the way they should. They're not going to, pressure. There's going to be a lot of shoddy things that's going to happen there. But then the next part, especially with people who like to kind of go the route of like, oh, I only offer, the top of the line inverters, and if someone doesn't want that, I'm just not doing business with them. I think that's fine. You can do that. Although I don't think it's a place of saying that, someone is superiorly ethical by doing so, because I feel like that's just kind of ego standing, of kind of being like, I know best, I'm the smart one, And so if you're not willing to do exactly what I want, then I just don't want to do business with you. It's like, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but I definitely wouldn't stand on the line of that. I would say that's more ethical than offering single stage equipment. Coming from someone who hates single stage equipment, and I think it's dumb, and I wouldn't do it. But I also recognize just because I wouldn't do it doesn't mean that, you know, somebody that's in a house where they're like, hey, I've had single stage equipment my entire life. If it just say if I set it to 72 and it gets to 72, then I'm happy. Well, I mean,
A lot of
I
people
don't
are
feel that way,
very
but they
happy
do.
with single stage equipment. I mean,
Yeah.
you get a company like, I mean, Ronnie made over $350,000 last year. He wouldn't have made that without selling a lot of single stage equipment.
Hmm.
And in fact, his company probably would have fired him had he talked to a customer that way, because the customer's likely to have a bad taste in their mouth about your company if you're condescending like that.
Yeah, in fairness, you don't have to be condescending to make those kind
Well,
of
you are
statements.
being condescending if you tell them you're not going to do single stage. Look, you're too poor to work for me to work
No,
for you.
it's all you can make those statements, but I still think you can be like, you know what? There's lots of other companies that do that, and that's okay. But one other one that I got here is you have this fresh air, and you're not even offering a ventilation strategy, because fresh air intake really is just an outside source. It's a tube in the hole in the wall is what I would call it. But I didn't see an ERV on the table or anything like that.
So our
Well,
guys
I
sell
don't.
thousands of systems a year, and this approach solves problems for these homeowners.
Yeah. Well, also, I'd like to add that this is also a free quote. If it were like we're trying to solve some legit issues, they should have went to the comfort consult level, which is where it gets a lot more specific. This is just kind of a, hey, these are pre-made packages. This is what we come up with. This that works for 90% of people of what they're looking for. If you're the other 10%, you would need the comfort consult. And in that regard, then, then you can start implementing better strategies tailored to someone's specific needs, to their specific budget, and to the house's specific needs. Granted, with ERVs, I mean, obviously that's something that we would say doesn't make sense in any situation unless you're in climate zone 7 and above. But that's a conversation for a different day. But overall, in terms of if
And
someone
you're
is,
probably, and if you're east of the Mississippi, you're going to need dehumidification
yeah, and so it's
because you're putting a tremendous amount of moisture load
yeah,
into a house in humid climates with an ERV.
yeah. Then you got other things you got to consider as well that can kind of throw things off. But overall, it's like if they've not even heard about bringing in fresh air or outside air to dilute things, they're just being introduced to it for the first time, and so just giving a fresh air intake, I mean, that's going to work very well for most people. That isn't scenarios where air quality is some significant issue. And like I said, in those scenarios, it's like, okay, well, we really should be at the comfort consult level, and if it's really severe, we need to be at the comprehensive planning process level. But right here is just free quote.
This is free quote. This
Yeah.
is free quote. And
Yeah.
we're trying to keep this so that you're not there all day. And most homeowners, guys that are running 350, 400 leads a year, they can't afford to spend that kind of time in every lead.
Yeah.
So Ben, taking away options and creating dissonance, not that it won't work taking those options away, but you're not taking any options away from the homeowner by doing this. Can you expand on that? Because I'm not sure what you mean. So one of the things, the reason the install choices got moved up is that Ronnie and Reedy, neither guy could be here tonight, unfortunately, found that people were opting for the fresh air choice a significant amount of the time. And the cost of doing the fresh air choice is not insignificant. So it would often put them over their budget. So it turns out that just by offering fresh air, not only were they offering more than all the other guys that were coming in the house, but they were offering something the homeowner didn't know anything about. And once they heard about it, they wanted it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so the whole bringing in fresh air, that whole option is surprisingly popular, and the feedback after the install is that homeowners are surprisingly happy about it.
Yeah. And that's also something that can lend itself for future improvements. Because I also feel like, when offering a lot of these things, really equipment is probably the most important part because you can only do that once. But a lot of these things can be added after the fact. Let's say someone was like, I really want fresh air, but it puts me over my budget on getting that, better equipment. It puts me into getting just good. So it's like it kind of tees you up to where you can go, okay, let's get the better equipment now. We'll
But set it up
yeah,
so that it's easy to install the other thing
yeah,
after you get your tax return.
yeah. Because then it's like, okay, then we can come add, then we can add our outside air duct. We can, install a haven with the controller, start to, put that motorized damper in to start adding in some automations for that sort of thing. So it lends itself to be able to do improvements over time. Because that's another thing that I feel like a lot of regular contractors kind of screw up is everything is a once and done. It's like you sell one system, and once you do, you get your dollar out of them, and that's it, no more. When it's in reality, why not? You can lay things out to go, okay, let's get the best we can afford now, and then make good choices to where we can add and improve as time goes on. Then you're setting up your maintenance program. You're going out once a year. You're testing all these things. Then it can just kind of be like, hey, you remember that fresh air duct we talked about? You remember I mean, the reason that I add big airdrop as just being an included part is that's one of the more difficult things to do in retrofit once the equipment's installed. But as long as you get that, everything else is hey, we talked about this fresh air. Would you like to look at installing that? It's our slow season, so if you're
Because you
willing to
went
do
with
it,
the
we'll
big
give you
air drop, that's an easy install.
yeah, yeah. Or you can, depending on what filter rack you install, you can always offer just kind of upgrading their filter, or there's other things you can do that can lend to just being improvements over time that you can do rather than just trying to take all the money you possibly can all in one go, and then once you're done bouncing. Like, I just feel like that strategy is just not, it could be better optimized.
So Ben, I'm still not following you. The link's in Slack. Can you jump into the meeting? Maybe you can articulate it, what your thoughts are here.
So, which I am kind of curious, Joe, in terms of like some of the things you were kind of bringing up, how would you see about going about it then? What would be your methodology? Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, a great reversal, by the way.
The problem of dealing with Sandler people is people see Sandler.
Yeah. I just that the challenge for me is that you're trying to put yourself as somebody who is a better contractor, and yet you're installing low level options. It just seems to diminish the brand. That's how I'm thinking about it. So it's not a fact. It's not a total solution. Everybody has their own choices as to what they're going to offer and what they want to do and how they want to do it and do it well. I just,
So if you're a little boutique business and you have plenty of leads, then you can basically tell people, I only install Rolls Royces. But if you're a business that's doesn't have, that level of lead flow where you can turn people down who can't afford your top choice.
Let me pause on the afford thing because they're probably already taking a loan out. Is that a reasonable statement? I'm just gonna be a devil's advocate just for a few minutes. Okay, so
Yeah,
if they're already
no,
taking a
that's
loan
okay.
out,
So
it's like
just to give you some background is like I'm talking to these guys multiple times a week and debriefing them on their sales visits, and it's not necessarily a function of affordability. It's about sometimes it's what they can afford. So they get the financing and they can't, like, $9,000 is what they can afford. But sometimes, they got a $50,000 car in the driveway and they're anchored to the $15,000 budget. So the 25, like Tanner and I went out together on a lead that was going to be a duct replacement. And so, and the person sort of had in mind that they were going to spend $6,000 or $7,000 to replace their ducts. And then when we used this process, we left with a $35,000 sale. But that was kind of a blank check kind of situation. They had been living in that house with tremendous discomfort for a long time. They had plenty of money and they had comfort issues that really bothered them. But if you go to a house where somebody's got a single stage or two stage piece of equipment and they're perfectly happy with the comfort that the house has had, doesn't really matter how much money they have. There's still a fair number of those people that are going to be like, I don't see any reason to get this equipment that you want to stuff down my throat.
well, your goal is to let them discover what their challenges are, their pain process is, what it is that they're having problems with, and then sell them that. So if they don't have a lot of issues, if they're completely comfortable in their house and their system just needs to get replaced, you're right. There's not a lot of options on the table. So to try to move them into
You
something.
don't have much, and you still want them as a client. You want to be able to go out and serve them, and you don't want to, based on what's out there in the marketplace, the type of installs that most people are doing. It's our belief that you want to do everything possible to help people get the best equipment they're comfortable investing in, that's the best fit for them. And that you want to make sure that it's installed as well as it can possibly be installed. And if you don't do it, the next guy doesn't have the capability to do it. I mean, these guys are top in their field typically, and that's what we've been able to attract with the HVAC 2.0 process is people that they're autists. They're like the best in the industry. They're like, they know more than everybody else. But that's not really solving any problem for the industry as a whole. What we need to do is have a process that really helps every homeowner get really great installations and understand the choices that they're making, so that and this process helps the homeowner understand the choices they're making so that they actually realize what they're giving up. And by doing that, you don't have problems with them later, because when you go back and they have humidity issues, you're able to review the sales process that you took them through with them, and they see that they didn't choose the greenest smiley face when it came to controlling humidity. Well, you got a yellow smiley face when it comes to humidity, but we did talk to you about that. And we said that if this were to occur, we could always do a ventilating dehumidifier. Is that what you would like us to do. And I mean, Austin, that happened to Austin a couple of months ago. He thought the homeowners all unhappy about their humidity control in the summertime. And he's like, oh, it's gonna be my problem. But because he had done a good job with the process, he documented that he had offered them better humidity control options. And at the time they had declined for budgetary reasons. And when he reviewed this process, when he reviewed their report with them, so that they were both brought up to speed at the same pace, both Austin and the homeowner realized the homeowner didn't choose better humidity control. There was no problem there. There was no like, why isn't this thing dehumidifying? And that's, HVAC contractors don't want to be blamed for things that they didn't have control over. And so this allows you to remove that blame because you're giving them the education through the smiley faces and the 6 functions as to what HVAC can do, and then what the HVAC they chose can do. Tanner, can you help me? Because I'm not sure what I said was clear. Tanner,
You're muted,
on
Tanner.
mute. There you go.
Oh,
There you go.
huh. Somehow I got muted there. Yeah, which actually I would like to take things back a little bit because I kind of have I'd like to get a little clarification on, especially like Joe, if you're kind of playing the perspective of that contractor that, I do not sell single stage, I won't even look at it. I would kind of like to know like what's the reasoning for taking that approach or having that business structure? Like, what's the benefit there?
Yeah, I just, remember, I'm not an HVAC technician or a salesperson, but in general, but what I have learned is that your on off is just not really a common way that the industry is now, or won't be there very long. So you're trying to, help your client get to a better place of, instead of, it's like taking your car and just slamming on the gas pedal and going as fast as you can and then stopping at the stoplight and then doing that again and again and again all the time. You only just want to go as fast and as hard as you can. Probably not the best way to wear your car or your equipment out. So, it's just trying to think through as to, are you really aware of what are your better options in terms of efficiency and long term and play and comfort all in one. So you're right. Maybe you have complete comfort right now, but we really just try to believe that there's the better options in the industry. So we don't offer the one size fits all car anymore. We are only after trying to get people into something that's a little more variable into what it is, and to be full variable, but the multi-stage equipment now is just gives people a lot more options.
So it's been
Yeah.
their way to avoid comfort complaints after the install.
That would be one way to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So our approach is
hold on
instead
one
of
second.
taking responsibility for the homeowner's comfort, to let them take responsibility for it through this decision-making process.
I know. Let's be clear. I understand that you guys want to put it on the table. I just want to ask
Yeah.
why, and you guys explain
And
the answer.
so here, if you
Well,
look at
hold on.
the comfort
Hold on one
curve-
second before we get to that, because
Okay.
I still want
Sorry.
to kind of like lean in on, because I'm in full agreement with you there, Joe, and like obviously single stage equipment, the constant on off, like that is the worst way you can do it. It is.
Yeah, I got to live with
I'll-
my remote volume next to my hand when the system goes on. Okay,
Yeah.
volume up,
Yes.
volume down.
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
So
Oh,
if,
yeah,
if you're not
absolutely.
able to, they may even realize some of those things, but you're just trying to say, you know what, we just think there's some better things out there that we now offer. And so I just,
Yeah.
it's just put it this way, if I was going into business, that would be my philosophy. I wouldn't offer those, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Everybody can do. It's free world. You can do whatever you
Yeah.
want. Your process can offer everybody the same things, but and they will buy those things. Somebody wants to buy those, and that's okay. I just was
Yeah.
trying to be like, I think you guys are trying to be like we are. We're better educated. We're better installers. We're doing better. So
Still getting
um,
reverberation, Ken.
yeah. So I just was wondering why you guys are still offering the
Yeah.
lowest low hanging fruit option.
Yeah.
Which
So we're
really,
educating homeowners that single stage equipment is going to be on off. Can you see this on the screen?
yeah.
The comfort curve. So if they're either budget constrained, that this is out of their range and this is out of their range, this is like probably 80 to 90% of the HVAC market.
Well,
Yeah,
let's
at
pause
least.
on that statement. That statement is also not a valuable statement as to what I see in the industry. I really think the industry is really not genuine. I think that they are have a tendency to just take people for their not being well educated, and most people, a system is a system is a system, and they think that whatever price that is, the lowest price is the best system for them. So, unfortunately, we keep putting in crappy systems for people, especially in their time of like big time need. So,
Right. So we're putting in bad
Yeah.
systems because people aren't well educated.
well, and contractors take advantage of the fact that this person really wants to buy something or has to buy something now, and they're selling them a single stage whatever, and off they run. So, and the other problem is that no matter whatever anybody installs, everybody makes money on these damn things. There is not, no, there aren't that many people who are struggling in the HVAC companies, from what I see. They're all, whether you put in a crappy system and put it in poorly, or you put in a high grade system and you do a great job. I see a lot of contractors who do amazing commissioning, and those who don't do any commissioning at all. They don't even check the airflow, and they all make a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, but kind of like getting back to it, I guess I'm still kind of wondering, like when you say not, uh, like what's the actual benefit for not offering those bottom stage, the single stage equipment, the equipment that some people are going to buy regardless, but just not even offering it? What exactly is the benefit for the contractor in doing so? Or maybe not even just the contractor, but what's the goal of
I
that?
guess that I don't want to be like a regular contractors. Is how I would try and differentiate myself. That there are a lot of people that can put those in for you. We just feel that it's a better investment and a better time for us if we actually move you into something that is a two-stage or variable speed, and here's why. And we just no longer offer that kind of equipment. That would be my approach. That's just how I would think about it. So and you can find those people
So is it
and
just
help
as a
them to get,
means for differentiation? Is that kind of
yeah.
like the main reason, just to be different?
Not to be different, but actually say we try and offer better products and better services.
By
Well,
selling better equipment, they think they're offering better services.
Well, they could be. That's to be debated, but yeah.
Okay, so those are distinct. They're saying we're only going to sell modulating equipment because it's easier for us.
Or two stage, right? Just not single stage. That's really the statement there. So it's no longer they just don't do single stage anymore. I know a lot of companies that don't do single stage equipment anymore.
And they give up the sales.
And they're okay with that because there is a challenge with sometimes single stage equipment. Their clients are not happy. They wish they'd gone with something that was giving them better comfort. It
So it
wasn't
comes
higher expenses.
so it comes
Those
down
are
to the
decisions that
client
they
not
make.
being happy.
Potentially, they just realized, like, you know what, these kind of clients were not really happy anymore.
So they don't
we
have
just
a
offer them.
way of making people who buy single stage happy with their decision.
They don't go there. They opted out of that. So yeah.
Right, because they didn't figure out how to make those client. They found that too many times those clients were unhappy with the comfort. So one of the problems, those people are oversized.
Well, it may not be comfort. It could also be energy. There's a variety of reasons why that single stage equipment wasn't exactly what they thought they were getting.
And would you agree that probably a other part of the problem is that they're getting temperature imbalances because the equipment's oversized?
That I wouldn't. Let's put that off the table, because that now
No,
you're talking about, again,
no. Let's keep that on the table, because our experience is people no matter what they sell, are grossly oversizing the equipment. And if they
That is
grossly
true.
oversize the equipment, it doesn't matter if a two-stage isn't going to fix that.
Yeah.
So they're still probably putting in two-stage that. But the
The people that
reason that people are
I'm thinking of are
comfortable
doing they're
because
doing
the
a manual
equipment runs
J
on low
or
stage all the time.
yeah, no, they're doing a manual J. They're doing some basic calculation as to here's the size of equipment, and manual J is going to oversize it a little bit anyway. But
Yeah, so they're putting in an oversized two-stage, but that second stage is their safety net.
Yeah.
So they're using second stage as a safety net. When our guys install two-stage, the people are getting use of both stages.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I would even say, even with two-stage, like, you're really not until you really get up into communicating inverter, either 5-stage or variable speed. That's really where you actually are getting into real improvements. Anything under that, like people that are putting in Bosch or the crossovers or the any of the mini split outdoor unit with air handler combos that are non-communicating. I mean, it's even arguable that those could be worse than single stage just because of how terrible they do at dehumidification. And so I think it gets a little tricky because, I mean, it would be fine to kind of take that business approach of like, we don't sell anything that we don't sell single stage, but I think it's kind of difficult to say we only sell good equipment, but offer anything other than communicating variable speed or 5-stage or better equipment. Like if you're not offering the top end and only the top end, anything under that, like you're taking a lot of.
Basically, what they're saying is we can't do good single stage installs, so we don't do single stage installs.
okay, I asked my a question and you guys defended it. So that's how you guys work. It's okay. It's not saying
no. I mean,
it's not saying
that's
it's right
just
or
what
wrong.
I'm seeing.
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, it's just more not like trying to. I guess I'm kind of taking it from. I'm just trying to like pull it apart and break down the real understanding of like what's the purpose for it exactly. Like
There's a business decision, and that business decision is based on problems that they've had, and problems that they've been unable to solve, and they've just given up.
That's one approach. That's one way to think of it. And I think other people are like, we don't offer the lower end equipment anymore. That's just not who we are, and we don't want to be in that category. So they're saying we are only offering better equipment with better installs. So that's one option. So it doesn't mean that they could install a single stage equipment. It just says that they no longer want to do that anymore. They want to try to give people this other option. So if you want that, like the quote says below here, we do BMWs. If you want a Ford or an Escort, they're down the street. So that's just right. I just asked as to what you guys do and why, and you explained it. So and that's okay. I'm not judging. I'm just
no. We're just trying to help you understand that baked into this process is we want to be able to serve everybody, and we want to be able to serve everybody that's going to be using the sales process. And if our sales process says to people that install single stage, our sales process doesn't work for you, then we're not helping, because this process will drive much better installs. But if we don't make it available to everybody, then it's limiting the market of who can get better installs.
Yeah. Well, it kind of throws out 85% of the sales that take place, because really, if everyone kind of offered it in that way and broke it down like a chart similar to like what's on the screen, it promotes better choices. Like especially the reason I use basic, or I'll use negative words to describe the single stage line, is it's really just a means of kind of being transparent with how that option is going to perform, which then at a minimum yields people to at least go one step up at a minimum. A lot of I typically find they're getting some form of inverter typically, but at a minimum, they're going to go one step up. And so, from the grand scheme of things, if at a minimum, people are going to at least take one step up in lines of equipment, plus they can get good installs, overall, that is going to elevate the industry because, you know, if some person is dead set on I want single stage, I mean, it's better to at least get that single stage installed well, regardless of which company's doing it. So if that company is wanting to sell single stage and someone's like, yep, that's exactly what I want, you can take your green speed and shove it. I don't want it. If they at least get a really well installed single stage, that's an improvement over what the current industry standard is. And that's a step in the right direction, I think. Well, I think we wore that topic out pretty well.
Yeah,
what do we
that
what we
was
got
that was
next?
a good discussion. Thank you for asking those questions,
Yeah.
because we do need to work that stuff through, and make it clear to people that what's this? Not everyone can afford a zero energy home, but they still live in the house they have. They still need an HVAC system, and we want to provide a good installation of what they can afford. Yep. So another way of putting it is, most people start out on the HVAC buying path thinking they want to get the cheapest replacement they can find. And if you get them to slow down for a minute, you can get them to shift from the cheapest that they can find to the best they can afford.
Yep.
And that's really what we want to do. Is what we want to do is help people understand that if they focus on cheap, they're going to get no smiley faces. Some of these smiley faces might be important to you. Some of them might not. So let's figure out which ones are important to you and make sure at least you get those.
Well,
ahead,
to
Cam.
your point, Michael, here, like I kind of want it to be insulting. I want them to kind of feel like, why would you even offer me this type feeling? Because if that's the case, because really, like these options, this isn't a pricing tool. This isn't a me giving them options and them going, I want this one, and we run with it. This is really just a, here's what options are open to you. And then I'll ask them, okay, which one of these would you like? Which 1 to 2 of these would you like a quote on? So if someone's looking at this and they're seeing this basic option and it's all looking bad, and you can go, yes, this is what you currently have. And if I quote last and we're kind of comparing the other quotes that they've received, and it's like, oh, it looks like you've got 3 quotes here. All 3 of them, they only gave you one option, and the option they gave you was this basic line. Is that what you're really looking for? Like, you just want me to give an apples to apples quote for this one, or is you looking for something else? Hopefully, and kind of what we're going for here is for them to kind of be like, no, like I don't want this option. Like, what can I get that's better? Well, then you could, it's just kind of leading them into opening up to, okay, maybe I want to actually get better equipment.
Sorry.
And then
So,
and one of the things that's happening out there with lots and lots of homes is the load matching and the mixing are 2 things that solve those comfort issues in the far rooms. And so you can have that conversation with the homeowner about Johnny's room at the far end of the house. It's always 10 degrees colder or 10 degrees hotter. Well, at least you might want to get a piece of equipment that does a better job at load matching and mixing, because then instead of 10 degrees off, Jason Trammell's coming in. Hey, Jason. Maybe it's only going to be 4 degrees off. And maybe that 6 degree improvement, while not perfect, makes for a substantially better experience in Johnny's room or in the basement or
yeah.
wherever the longest duct run is.
Yeah. It can help blunt the problem enough to where it makes it's blunted enough to where it's not worth spending the extra money to either redo ductwork or anything like that. Because I know there's kind of the argument that has been kind of made in the regards of going, oh, if you're installing equipment, well, then you need to do a duct design and you need to, figure out exactly what airflow at each register you should be getting. And then you should do a test and balance after the fact and yada yada, which is like, I mean, sure, but I don't know what everyone else charges to do that, but I charge quite a bit. And so a lot of times it's just easier to go, hey, what if we just get good equipment, take all that money we would have spent towards testing and balancing, buying better equipment, and then see if that works, see if that's good enough for you. If it's not good enough, we can always make adjustments after the fact. And a lot of times with good, uh, aggressively sized variable speed equipment, you don't have to do all that duct modification and test and balancing the way that you would had you not got that level of equipment.
Going back to Jim's argument of if the equipment's running all the time, you don't have temperatures going up and temperatures going down. You just have conditioning continuously.
Yeah.
What's a good word, Jason?
Same old, same old.
Is this starting to look a little better?
Yeah. Yeah. I hadn't really been able to see it that good, but
Oh, right. You're on your phone.
yep.
It still needs better reordering.
We're
not
going to be experimenting with it for the next couple of months, probably before we figure out some really good templates that can allow people that can't build templates to hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, we have a bunch of really good templates, and then people can just edit the templates
right
the way they want instead of, having to do it. Only us are going to do it from scratch.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a fine line there between being too convoluted and
Yep.
Too
And
much
direct.
information and
Yep.
enough information. So
Yeah.
Yes.
it's tough, especially with this is the free quote process. This isn't like going in and doing a comfort consult with a blower door and duct blaster and infrared camera and all that stuff. This is just going in. Typically, people are looking at 30 minutes to an hour, maybe.
I
tops.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times it's 10 minutes,
Yeah.
15 minutes. Somebody just
Yeah.
comes in and says, you got a
You're
4-ton?
hearing the
All
other
right,
side of it now, Jim. Is like,
here's your price for a 4-ton. It's
Yep.
constraints.
$8,900. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
So,
There are tire kickers.
Yeah.
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 So I'm gonna get Ronnie in Austin using this. I think Austin is getting to the point where he's doing mostly comfort consults, and a lot of the comfort consults getting turned over to him aren't really
warranted.
people need new equipment. It's more like, I got this complaint.
Yeah.
My equipment's only 2 years old. I'm not changing it.
Mm.
That's very frustrating for him.
Yeah, that's
So what I'd like to do is get this so that he can use this before he dives into the comfort consult. And in a lot of cases, this will help flush out whether or not there's an equipment sale there or not. And if there's not, then he'll say, well, okay, so this is going to be kind of help you have a specification when it does come time to replacement. And he can duck out without having to set up, because most of his comfort consults are 2 visits.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating to go back a second time knowing you're not going to make an equipment sale.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 4 hours minimum for doing all that kind of.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you'd be just screaming through it if you
Yeah.
if it took you 4 hours to do everything.
I'm just 4 hours just for the field.
Oh
test.
yeah,
I mean,
Right.
yeah, oh
Right.
yeah, yeah,
nothing on the back end. So
yeah,
you're 8 man hours easy. If I mean, maybe even 2 guys, 8 hours.
Yeah.
yeah. That's what's tricky. I mean, the thing with the comfort consult, like the nice thing when you're getting paid isn't that you're just making a ton of money doing the work,
Yeah.
doing the consulting itself. It's
You
more
you
of just
still
like
have to make you still have to make the sale to make up for the
yeah,
lost
yeah.
money
Yeah.
on
It's more
doing
of just you're
the company.
getting them to get skin in the game
Yeah.
and you're kind of it's something rather than nothing type thing. But if you're running on those calls where they've got little nuisance complaints and systems 2 years old and they're not changing it, that's
That's a
not fun sales calls.
loss.
Yeah.
He's still got the highest average revenue per lead for last month in Indy, I think.
Oh wow.
But
Still killing it.
he's still doing well with what he's getting, but he's feels like he's spending a lot of time on some dead ends. You know, and Ronnie looks like he's highest revenue per lead for the whole, you know, the whole Williams group, 24 salespeople. But Ronnie is doing the free quote here, and he did have a situation where he was called out to a house where the people wanted to remove two systems and install one, and their duct was all cattywampus. And so we're not going to fix contracts because that is just way too much of a lift. I'm going to blow my brains out if it takes that much to get this thing to where it responsibly avoids responsibility. But Ronnie does put in the contract the conversations and the things that were offered. And he strongly encouraged these people, because of the layout of the ductwork, to get modulating equipment. And he suggested that if modulating equipment wasn't enough, they might need to put in zoning. And the people bought single stage.
Oh god.
And
Yeah, let's put
and
zoning
then
on
later
single
they
stage.
called in and complained. And the complaint department gets it. And I don't know what their process is, but part of their process apparently is not to call the salesperson and ask what happened. But the people called Ronnie first, you know, complaining about temperature imbalances. So Ronnie got ahead of it and told the complaint department, you know, hey, let's have a conversation about this, because if you look at the contract, when the complaint department eventually called him, if you look at the contract, I told them. And the lady who runs the complaint department apparently didn't look at the contract either. Once she looked at the contract, she's like, oh, okay, I think I got everything I need here. And so the solution that those people get offered is zoning. But I mean, zoning a single stage, it's going to make it better, but they made a mistake with the equipment. And because Ronnie put it in the contract, made it very clear that that was the homeowner's choice and not his. I guess they also see his price book. So they see that he priced different options for them too. So, and I'm sort of hoping that the pricing step stays beyond us. I just want to get to the budget exercise to help people bracket.
Yeah. Will help people get an idea of what they even want.
Right.
Because it's like, if you put it in context of cars, no one goes to a car dealership and just goes, give me a car. They already have an idea of what they want. And then they're trying to just narrowly define it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really what we're trying to do is get someone from I care nothing about what I'm getting to okay, I do care, and here's what I care about, and here's why. Here are my pain points, and yes, this, the better option is what I want. I want this. I want these smiley faces. Uh, Getting people to that point before you start handing out quotes left and right. That's what is. I mean, the Sandler
So
submarine is
That's
in a certain order for a certain reason.
well,
So
it's like going back to Joe's point earlier about um, people only buying single stage because they weren't whatever offered
Ronnie,
we're given the
only
choice.
multi-stage
Ronnie's a master
is
at going
because
through the videos and offering static and all of that stuff. So he had all of that, and he explained that to the people that the equipment that they were buying wasn't going to get them any of the smiley faces,
right. I mean,
and
it's
that
the same.
because
I mean,
they were expecting one
how,
system to do what two systems used to do and do it better wasn't gonna work.
I mean, I'm not a car expert, but I mean, how many Toyota Camrys or Honda Accords get sold versus McLaren F1s?
Right.
I mean,
Well,
it's
in this situation, the people were just sometimes you just get those people, but you still want that sale.
right. You
Um,
gotta have that sale. I mean, if
you got to have that sale,
you have to.
and so Ken, yeah, we all agree with this. I think sometimes just downsizing the equipment to the right single stage. A lot of houses are very well served with single stage equipment if it's properly sized.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
the problem is when you're a HVAC contractor, the equipment's mute. It can't defend itself. And I think Joe probably can support this. All this equipment is getting installed with some kind of average static pressure of between 7 and 9.
Yeah, yeah, easily.
And
With a rated 0.5. Yeah, 7 to 9.
yeah,
Okay.
and one of the things that we're finding is usually the ductwork 95% of the time, ductwork is sufficient for load of the house. So that leads me to believe if the ductwork is sufficient for the load of the house, but the measurement of static pressure on equipment isn't appropriate to the ductwork, then the equipment is oversized. Now, you really want, of course, to know more about the house, but without being able to go see the house, I'm going to just say that equipment that doesn't have the right static pressure is oversized because, I mean, there are cases where the ductwork's a disaster, but most of the time you put better equipment and downsize it, it fixes it. Homeowners are
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot more often than going up in size or staying at the same size. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen a scenario where a unit needs to go up in size.
Me either.
Crazy brick houses in zone 6, maybe zone 5. It's because they have so much mass.
Heating size. Yeah. I don't really worry too much about heating.
Yeah.
Where I'm at.
I've seen it, and Timmy Nauer has seen it in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Which is a big deal especially for the heat pump push and all this stuff. Is
You
heating
got
those.
you got to break them of setback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Particularly, hey, if there's going to be a cold spell, I know you might like it 3 or 4 degrees colder at night, but don't do that when a cold snap's coming.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we've made it an hour and 40 minutes in, so
Oh my gosh.
should we wrap it up and head to the after show?
Sure.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming. We'll catch
See you in
everybody
2 weeks.
in 2 weeks.
And